ताम ताम सजीवम साद्वैतम सवधूतम परिजना सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पदान सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृष्ण भानु सुत देवे प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we were discussing the first chapter, and I believe we have to start from verse number 41 today, if I'm not wrong. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so let's recite this verse. You can repeat after me. Sankaro narakayaiva
Sankaro
Sankaronarakaeva
kulaghananam kulasya cha
Kulajnanam
Kulagananam
Kulasya cha
Kulasyaja
patanti pitaro yesham
Patanti
Patanti
Pitaro
Pitaro Yesham
Yesham
lupta pindodaka kriyaha.
Lupta
Lupta
Pindodaka
Pindota
Kriyaha
Kriyaha
Sankaro narakayaiva
Sankara
Sankaronarakaeva
Narakayaiva
kulaghnam kulasya cha
Kulajnanam
Kulaganam
Kulasya cha
Kulasyaja
patanti pitaro yesham
Patanti
Patanti
Pitaro
Pitaro
Yesham
Yesham
lupta pindodaka kriyaha.
Lupta Pindodaka Kriyaha
Shankaro narakayaiva
Sankaronarakaeva
kulaghananam kulasya cha
Kulajnanam Kulasya cha
patanti pitaro yesham
Patanti Pitaro Yesham
lupta pindodaka kriyaha.
Lupta
Lupta
Pindodaka
Pindota Kriyaha
Kriyaha
Anyone else would like to recite?
Sankaronarakaeva
Sankaro
Shankara
narakayaiva
Narakayaiva
Kulajnanam Kulasya cha
kulaghananam
Kulaganam
cha
Kulasyaja
Patanti Pitaro Yesham
patanti
Patanti
pitaro
Pitaro
yesham
Yesham
Lupta Pindodaka Kriyaha
lupta
Lupta
pindodaka
Pindota
kriyaha.
Kriyaha
Shankaro Narakaiva
Sankaro
Sankara
narakayaiva
Sankaronarakaeva
Narakayaiva
Kulagnanan Kulascha cha
Kulajnanam
Kulaganam
kulaghnanam
Kulasya
kulasya
cha
Kulasyaja
cha
Pitanti Pitara Heshang
patanti
Patanti
pitaro
Patanti
Pitaro
Pitaro
yesham
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 Lupta Pindo Kadaya Kriya
lupta
Lupta
pindodaka
Pindodaka
kriyaha.
Luptapindodakakriyaha
Kriyaha
Shankaro Narakayaiva
Shankaro
Sankaranarakayayiva
narakayaiva
Kulagnanam Kulasya cha
kulaghnanam
Kulajnanam
kulasya
Kulasya
cha
cha
Kulasyaja
Patanti Pitaro Hyasham
patanti
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 pitaro
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 yesham
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 Lupta Pindodaka Kriyaha
Lupta
lupta
Pindodaka
pindodaka
Kriyaha
kriyaha.
Luptapindodakakriyaha Sankaranarakayayiva
Sankaro narakayaiva
Sankaronarakaeva
Narakaiva
Kulaganam Kulasyaja
kulaghnanam
Kulajnanam
kulasya
Kulagnanan
cha
Kulasya
Kulascha
cha
cha
Patanti Pitaro He Esham
patanti
Patanti
pitaro
Patanti
Pitaro
yesham
Pitara
Yesham
Heshang
Luptapindodakakriyaha
lupta
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 pindodaka
Pindodaka
Pindo
kriyaha.
Kriyaha
Dakakriya
Anyone else? Okay, we can start with the synonyms. You can repeat after me. Sankaraha,
Sankaraha
Shankaraha
Sankaraha
such unwanted children.
Such
Such
unwanted
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 children
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 Narkaya,
Narakaya
Narakaya
make for hellish life.
make
Make
for
Made
hellish
for
life.
hellish
life.
life.
Eva,
Eva.
Eva,
Eva.
certainly.
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 Kulagnanam,
Kulagnanam.
Kulagnanam,
for those who are killers of the family.
for
For
those who are
For
those
those
killers
who
of
are
the
killers
family.
of the family.
Kulasya,
Kulasya,
Kulasya.
for the family.
for
For
the
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 family.
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 Cha,
Cha.
Cha,
also.
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 Patanti,
Patanti,
Patanti.
fall down.
fall
Fall
down.
down.
Pitraha,
Pitaraha,
Pitaraha.
forefathers.
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 He,
He,
He.
certainly.
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 Esham,
Isham,
Esham.
Esham.
of them.
of them.
Of
Of
them.
them.
Lupta,
Lupta,
Lupta.
Lupta.
stopped.
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 Pinda,
Pinda,
Pinda.
Pinda.
of offerings of food.
of offerings
Of
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 food.
offerings
offerings
of
of
food.
food.
Udaka,
Udaka,
Udaka.
and water.
and
And
water.
And water.
Kriyaha,
Kriyaha,
Kriyaha.
performances.
performance.
Performances.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. Purport. According to the rules and regulations of fruitive activities, there is a need to offer periodical food and water to the forefathers of the family. This offering is performed by worship of Vishnu, because eating the remnants of food offered to Vishnu can deliver one from all kinds of sinful reactions. Sometimes the forefathers may be suffering from various types of sinful reactions, and sometimes some of them cannot even acquire a gross material body and are forced to remain in subtle bodies as ghosts. Thus, when remnants of prasadam food are offered to forefathers by descendants, the forefathers are released from ghostly or other kinds of miserable life. Such help rendered to forefathers is a family tradition, and those who are not in devotional life are required to perform such rituals. One who is engaged in the devotional life is not required to perform such actions. Simply by performing devotional service, one can deliver hundreds and thousands of forefathers from all kinds of misery. It is stated in the Bhagavatam 11.5.41. Dev Rishi Bhutapta Nrinam Pitranam Na Kinkaro Nayam Rini Cha Rajan Sarvatmana Yaha Sharanam Sharanayam Gato Mukundam Pariritya Kartam. Anyone who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up all kinds of obligation, and has taken to the path in all seriousness, owes neither duties nor obligations to the demigods, sages, general living entities, family members, humankind, or forefathers. Such obligations are automatically fulfilled by performance of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे. I read the translation one more time. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life, both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. So here we see that Arjuna has come in under illusion now, and he is giving one reason after another for not fighting the war. So actually, this illusion that Arjuna has come under, it's not an ordinary illusion, of course, we know that. So Acharya explains, especially Chakravarti Pad explains in his commentary to Bhagavad Gita, that actually Krishna is so merciful that, when he descends to the material world, normally people are drowning in Bhavasagar, in the material existence, in samsara. But when Krishna descends in the material world, he drowns them in his own prema. But of course, we know that not everybody is a devotee of Krishna, even when Krishna descends. There are people who are envious of Krishna, who are against Krishna. So even for such people, Krishna, actually, it is mentioned by Acharyas. Prabhupada also writes, I believe, in one of the purports to Srimad Bhagavatam, that everyone who was present on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, everybody was liberated. Not one single soul remained that was not liberated, because they were witnessing Krishna right in front of them. So actually seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face is not an ordinary thing. So that itself is purifying. When you just see the Supreme Lord, that when you, so we have seen in the Srimad Bhagavatam that, you know, so many yogis, they're hankering, they're doing tapasya for you know, just getting one glimpse of Vishnu. So here Krishna himself is standing in front of these soldiers, these kshatriyas, ordinary people, and whoever had taken darshan once of Krishna, they all were liberated. But it is explained by Chakravarti Pad in his commentary that Krishna is so merciful that he was thinking that, okay, right now I am present on the battlefield and I am, whoever is getting my darshan, they are able to get liberated. But what about people who are not yet born? So for them, he has arranged to give this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So what he does is he actually puts his very dear devotee Arjuna in a transcendental illusion. It's not an ordinary illusion, of course. So there are two kinds of illusions. We know there is Mahamaya. Mahamaya is, you know, generally we fall under Mahamaya, and then the elevated devotees, and especially the, you know, direct associates of the Lord. So we know the Pandavas are the direct associates of the Lord. Actually, they're not ordinary associates also. There is this description that comes in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where there is a discussion between Yudhishthir Maharaj and Narad Muni. So there, Yudhishthir Maharaj is actually, there is a story of, so Yudhishthir Maharaj asks a question that, is Krishna partial? So then we know that Narad Muni tells the whole story of Prahlad Maharaj over there. And then Yudhishthira, at the end of the story, Yudhishthira Maharaj says, such a powerful devotee, he was such a great devotee, you know, Lord himself came to protect him. And then Narad Muni says, the Yudhishthira, actually, you are also not an ordinary devotee. There, Narasimhadev came just once and then he went away after that. But here you see Krishna is right here in front of your own eyes. He's living with you in your palace. He's roaming around with you. He's talking to you every day. So just imagine what kind of devotee you are. And then, of course, Yudhishthira Maharaj is humble. He doesn't reply to that. He becomes a little, a little hesitant after Narad Muni glorifies him. So the point that I was making is that Krishna is actually so, merciful on the living entities, that through putting Arjuna in this transcendental illusion, he is revealing this knowledge to all of us. Now, Arjuna actually, what he does is, after, so we know that Krishna knows the, Krishna is the super soul, is the Paramatma, and he exactly knows the weakness of every person. You know, so he also knows the weakness of his devotees and also the non-devotees. He's not an ordinary, but he's a Paramatma. He's there in the hearts of everyone. So when Arjuna asks Krishna that, you please take my my chariot in between the two armies, I want to see who are these people who have come to fight me. So he uses the word Dhritarashtrasya Durbuddher. So the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. He was hinting at Duryodhana. So he said, let me see who are these evil-minded people who has come to fight for the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. And there Krishna knew the weakness of Arjuna. So what he does is, very carefully, he takes the chariot right in front of the chariots of Bhishma and Drona. And, you know, it is, you know, so there is a saying that when the destiny has to hit, it hits where it hurts the most, you know. So Krishna knew that this is the weakness of Arjuna, that, you know, Bhishma and Drona. He was not very concerned so much with Duryodhana and all. So as soon as Krishna brings the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona, so he says, Uvacha Partha Pashyetan Samaveta Kuruniti. So he looks at the army of the Kurus, and there he sees his own friends, his kinsmen, his grandfathers, his teachers, and then he becomes overwhelmed. And then he starts giving reasons for not fighting the war. So his reasons are also going increasingly, you know, deeper and deeper, and the scope of his reason is expanding. You know, so we see that the first reason that he gives is, you know, he was very compassionate. You know, why should I kill all these people? Millions of people have assembled here to fight, and almost all of them will be killed. Why should we do such kind of a bloodshed just because we want to enjoy this kingdom? So that is the first immediate cause that he's saying, that if this war happens, immediately these people are going to die. So this is like an immediate repercussion of the war. The second reason he gives is, which is a little more far-sighted, he says that actually even if I kill them, then how will I be able to enjoy this kingdom? So generally what happens is the enjoyment comes not just by, okay, I can enjoy certain things. We also want to show off, I want to show off things to my parents, to my relatives, that, I am enjoying so nicely. So that is also kind of enjoyment. So we know that there is this, there used to be this advertisement in India, Onida television, if you remember, what is that? Neighbors envy, owners pride. You own this, it is your pride, but neighbor will envy you. So that is also like kind of enjoyment when others envy you that you are so, you're enjoying so much. So he says that what is the use of this kingdom if my loved ones are not there to see my enjoyment? Then the third level of argument that he gives is, so he says that actually ordinarily, so he uses the words, a word, uh, what is that word that is used for aggressors? Atatainas. So generally it is mentioned that, Atatainas should be killed. But he says, Swajanam hi katham Krishnam. He says, they are my Swajana, they are my own kinsmen. So generally it is the law, it is like a dharma to kill the Atatainas. And Prabhupada there gives the definition of Atatainas. There are 6 kinds of Atatainas he mentions. But then there is also a contradicting dharma which says that if they're your own kinsmen, then they should not be killed. So he says that actually if I kill them, then sin will overcome us. So, and then if I am overcome by sin, if we take shelter of sin, then where is the enjoyment? If we will start getting the reactions for the sins that we have committed. So it is more like a very long-term effect that Arjuna is saying. And now he takes the reasoning a little more ahead. He says, not just me, if all the Kshatriyas are killed, then what will happen is, actually, if the Kshatriyas are not there, then the women will not be protected. And if the women are not protected, then there will be, they will get polluted, and then there will be Varna Shankara. Varna Shankara means there will be unwanted progeny that will take place. So he is telling and then he takes a further, he takes the argument further, and he says that if there is Varna Shankara population, then there will be no one to offer oblations to the ancestors. And then what will happen eventually is the oblations of those family will fall down. They will have to go to hell, So he's talking now, he's giving such a long-term consequence, and the scope has also expanded from his own self to everybody, kind of. The whole Kshatriya Kul, the scope of his argument has increased. So we see here that we see that the Arjuna's depth of thought, although he's emotionally overwhelmed, he's not completely irrational also. So generally when we are emotionally overwhelmed, at times we talk irrationally. We are not talking rational after that, when we are emotionally overcharged. So Madhusudan Chakravarti is a commentator on the Gita. He writes in his commentary that, so generally people have the idea that, what is there in the first chapter of the Gita? There are 2 armies, and then, there are some names that are mentioned, and then Arjuna actually starts lamenting. Actually, there is no philosophy on the first. If you see, Krishna doesn't start speaking the Gita actually in the first chapter. So what is there in the first chapter? And some people like to skip the first chapter. They start from the second chapter onwards, where the hardcore philosophy starts of the Gita. But Madhusudana Chakravarti is a commentator on the Gita. He writes in his commentary that the purpose of the first chapter is to establish the qualification of a person who is qualified to receive the knowledge of the Gita. So he says that, these are the qualifications of a person. So whatever Arjuna is talking over here, he is far-sighted, he is compassionate, he is equibalanced, he wants to treat even his enemies fairly, and he doesn't want to destroy the family traditions. So he gives all this reasoning over there. And Prabhupada also quotes him at various places. So Madhusudana Chakravarti, as we know, he was a Vaishnava, and later he went into the Mayavadi camp. And then on the contrary, we have Sridhar Acharya, who was earlier a Mayavadi, but later he became a Vaishnava. And we know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had considered the commentary of Sridhar Swami on Srimad Bhagavatam as the authority. So here we see that actually he is talking very reasonably, but the essential point he is missing is that he is not the body, he is the soul. So at the level of the body, this is a very reasonable and rational argument. So what he's saying is that if all these Kshatriyas are killed, the women will not be protected and they will become contaminated. And if the women are contaminated, then there will be Varna Shankara. So this Varna Shankara will come again later. So what Krishna does is later, so whatever all these reasons that Arjuna had given so far, so 4 reasons he gives in the first chapter of the Gita, which we already discussed, and then the last reason that he gives Arjuna for not fighting the war is in the second chapter. The Chaitadvit Mahakatran Nagar, he says, and I don't know what to do. You know, if I don't kill them, then they will kill me. So I don't know what should I do, Krishna. So please tell me. And then he surrenders Karpanya Doshopahat Subhava. So actually, Krishna answers all of these arguments that Arjuna had given. So the first 3 arguments that Arjuna had given, compassion, then enjoyment, how would I enjoy, then the sin will overcome us. These 3 Krishna answers in the second chapter. One reason, that the one that we just discussed, that the Varna Shankara is not an ordinary argument. Actually, it is a very fair argument. So Krishna addresses this in the third chapter of the Gita, and we'll discuss about that later. And the final indecision to fight the war, then Krishna addresses that in the last chapter of the Gita, towards the end of the Gita. So Krishna does answer all the concerns raised by Arjuna. It's not that Krishna just leaves them unanswered. So now we see in the 1.40 verse, the verse before that, I'll just read the translation one second. I think Mataji discussed it last time. So this 1.40 and 41, they are like 1.40, 41 and 42. They are like continuation. So that's why I just want to read the translation so we have the context. So 1.40 is when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted. And from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishnik, comes unwanted progeny. So that was 1.40 and 41. I read the translation again. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life for both the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. So now this purport of Srila Prabhupada, which he has given in 1.40, is sometimes considered to be very volatile in the sense, especially in the Western countries, because Prabhupada is saying that women are less intelligent and should not be trusted. And I'm glad actually Vallabhi Mataji in her class addressed all of these points. So, and we know that that was also discussed that of course Srila Prabhupada never treated his women disciples like that. But sometimes the word is less intelligent. So we know that he's obviously quoting from the Smritis, Smriti Shastras. And this less intelligent acharyas have explained this at 3 different levels. So the first level explanation that is given is that in the woman body, what happens is the identification with the body is very, very strong. When the identification of the body with the body is very strong, then what happens is to realize that I am not the body, I am the soul, that becomes very difficult. So we see that for most women, their essential sense of self-worth comes from their body. They want to look good, they want to decorate the body, they want to dress nicely. Even I was so surprised, when daughter was, I would say 2 years or maybe less than that, her attraction for these kind of ornaments, nail polish, these kind of cosmetics, I was just thinking that how could there be, for a small girl who is not even 2 years old, how could she be so much attracted to these kind of things? So that is like an inbuilt thing. And contrary for the boys, we see that they're not so much attracted. They don't even care what they're wearing. Whatever the parents would tell them to wear, they would wear and go away. But I can't make my daughter wear any cloth, any dress that she doesn't like. It will become like a nightmare for me if we do that. So what happens is that identification with the body is very strong. The urge to make the body look good is very strong. I remember I was attending a training at my workplace, and there was a very renowned trainer who happened to be a woman who was supposed to give the training, and everybody was talking about her, that she's such a nice trainer. And so everybody was looking forward to the training. And then the training started, and it started very good. But later somehow she, she started on a different she went on a different tangent. Actually, she started talking about that, I am not very good looking, and and that's why I told my husband, I don't care if you have some other affair and all that. Then after that, after a while, we noticed that her whole training she was talking about that how she is not so good looking. So actually, so that sense of self-worth comes a lot from the body. That doesn't happen so much in the male body. The number two explanation that is given by the acharyas is that that because the identification of the body is very strong, often the women are emotional, and when they are emotional, they are sometimes become a little irrational. And when, because of these reasons, it is it is easier for people to take advantage of them. So that is possible. So we see that that is what is happening to Arjuna also here, because now he is identifying himself with the body, he's not identifying himself with the soul, and now he is becoming emotionally overwhelmed. And so that's why this whole argument is flowing. And the third level explanation that is given by the acharyas is that this is just a bodily limitation, it is not a disadvantage of the soul. So at the level of the soul, we are not male, we are neither female. So what happens is every body has its own positives, and every body has its own, every type of body, I mean, has its own positive, and every type of body has its own limitations. For example, in a bird's body, the soul can fly, but in a man's body, you cannot fly. Similarly, if you have a lion's body, you are so strong, but that doesn't happen so much in the. So it is like a limitation that is given by the body. It is not a limitation of the soul. So if so, Prabhupada had also said that by chanting Hare Krishna, your mind will expand. So I think Vallavi Gopi Mataji quoted that in her class last time. So these are the three level explanations that are given by the acharyas for this. Just wanted to mention it here. So what happens is, because they are prone to be misguided, they are prone to be degraded, a certain level of dharma to keep themselves engaged is required. So what happens is, if the Kshatriyas are not there, and especially if the elders in the family are not there, if they are, so what happens is there is nobody to protect that dharma. So in the Mahabharata, there is a verse that comes, and it also comes in the Manusmriti, interestingly. This is, I don't remember the entire verse, but it says, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. In the Manusmriti, it is, I believe, 8.15. I don't remember the verse for Mahabharata. I think it comes in the discussion between, this is in the Anushasan Parva. I think it comes of Mahabharata. Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. If you protect dharma, then the dharma will also protect you. Dharmo Rakshati Rakshita. It's a very important statement. If you protect dharma, then dharma will protect you. So my father, I remember, he used to tell me, I used to be very careless about my clothes, and I, when I used to come from the school, I used to throw them around here and there. So he used to tell me that if you respect your clothes will respect you. So it is something, a little rhetorical there. So I remember this, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. So actually what happens is, here if you see in 1.41, it is said that Shankaro Narkayeva Kulaghananam Kulasya, an increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. So actually, if the dharma is destroyed, what happens is, people who are protecting the dharma, they are also destroyed, and people who are destroying the dharma, they are also destroyed. So actually it is both way. So dharma, if it is destroyed, it can, people who have been trying to protect it, they are definitely destroyed, but people who are trying to destroy them, they will also get destroyed. It's both ways. It's a double-edged sword actually. So now we can practically see this concept of Varna Shankara. It's especially so much in the Western world. So there are researches done by social researchers, and it's not like a very big secret that in the Western countries, most children are born out of marriages, not so much inside the marriages. So we see in the, and I'm quoting this from what Mataji said in her class, Vallavi Gopi Mataji, there is a story of, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a story of Kashyap Rishi and Diti. Diti is one of the wives of Kashyap Muni, that how the improper contact leads to dangerous progeny. So the story is that Diti and Kashyap, they unite at an inappropriate time, and it leads to these two demons who are born. So now both of them, both Kashyap and Diti, they are not ordinary sense gratifiers. They are great souls, Mahatmas. Kashyap is one of the progenitors, and then he's also the father of Vaman Dev. How could you think that, he's not an ordinary person? That's the point. So, but what happens is, even if great souls, they unite inappropriately, that can also lead to disastrous consequences. Then what to speak of two completely materialistic persons uniting at a completely arbitrary time? You can imagine what could be the consequences. So there has been a research done, not a research, but a survey done on serial killers. So serial killers, so they define serial killers as one person, they're lone person, they're not acting as a, with an organized kind of like a gang or something. They're lone wolves, as we call them. So people who have killed more than 25 people, such people, so they have done a research, and what they found was very striking, that almost all of these 25 people who they have included in their research, and they had put the names also, they had the same family background. They came from, one parent family, and the other reason they had mentioned that, the mother had no time to spend with the child. So at times what happens is, the children, they need a lot of caring for them from the mother especially. But if the mother doesn't have the time to give to the child, then often they have this emotional outburst and different kinds of problems. So there are other researches also that have been performed, that how, because of the degradation of such principles, what has happened. So they have compared how these kind of events have led to degradation in the society as a whole. So they had compared like certain decades from 1950 onwards to certain years, and then again in the ranges of 2000s. I think it's from 1980s to 2010 or something like that. The 2 to 3 decades they have compared, previous 3 decades and the next 3 decades, and how things have deteriorated. So according to their research, they mentioned that the divorce rates have increased almost about 2 to 3 times. The violent crimes have increased almost by 4 times. Similarly, the number of prisoners have increased 5 times. This is very striking. And then children born outside of marriage have increased more than 6 times. So this is also one of the reasons they mention. And so these are not nuclear ordinary families. These are like mostly one parent families. And then live-in relationships have increased almost about 7 times. And then what has caused is, you may think that, okay, people are living as they want, and that should lead to certain kind of happiness. But the other factor that is mentioned by in these researches is that depression levels have increased more than 10 times. So then you may say, okay, after doing all these things, where is the happiness? People do everything for happiness, but there is no happiness. Again, we see that there is also an interesting research I found. So we know that one of the US president was charged with inappropriate relationship, and it was actually proven also later. Anyone remembers the name of that US president, ex-US president?
Bill Clinton.
Yeah. So all this Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky saga that happened. So we know that the whole story, so I'm not going to go into the story, but what happened is, so there is this trend of political rivalry, and we had seen that in the recent elections also. So one of the things that happens is there is the whole idea of character assassination. So that happened even in the previous election time also. So they tried to both the parties tried to assassinate each other's character. But in the case of Bill Clinton, it was kind of proven. He was like a acting president at that. It was not in the time of election as such. So there were prominently 6 people who were accusing him and asking him to resign from the post. Of course, he did not resign. But then there were these researchers who started digging up things for all these 6 people who were accusing Clinton, and they were very vehemently saying that you should resign from the post. So they found that all 6 of them had similar illicit connections. So that is the level of you can imagine whatever it is. So now coming to this verse again, so we see here this 1.41. So verse here, it talks about an increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. So we know that Pindadan ceremony is considered to be a very important ceremony from a Karma Kanda perspective. So what happens is there are oblations offered to the ancestors, and generally it is said that the eldest most living person in the family should take up that responsibility to offer Pindadan to the ancestors. So the whole idea of Pindadan is that sometimes the ancestors. So we know that the what would be our next life. It is determined by the kind of karma that we do. Now, generally, what it is said is that in the current age, it is a Kali Yuga. It is Kali Yuga, and people do ordinary karma. People are not. Most people are not very doing a lot of good karma also, and most people are not doing like a very severely bad karma also. At least in India, I could say that. So, but what happens is, the soul needs certain pious credits to acquire the next body. So generally we have the very simplistic idea that after death, the soul is taken to Yamraj, and then Yamraj, there is this person, what is his name, Chitrasen, or who will look at the records, okay, what this person has done, and then he will tell the Yamraj, and then Yamraj will decide what punishment has to be given. So that's the very simplistic idea, but generally it is mentioned in the scripture that this is not how it works. So scriptures mention that there is so scriptures talk about general guidelines, but what has been explained by the acharyas is that every case is different. It's not that every soul will be taken to Yamraj. We see in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself when the discussion between Yamduta and the Vishnudutas happen in the case of Ajamil. So the Yamdutas are baffled, and they were so surprised that never ever it had happened that if they had gone to get a soul, that somebody could come and stop them. But in this case, the Vishnudutas had come and stopped them. So they were so surprised, and they couldn't do anything actually at that time, and they had to go empty-handed to Yamraj. And then they asked Yamraj, Yamraj, we thought that you are the boss, and we see that you are not the boss. There's someone else bigger than you. So what is this whole deal about? So at that time, Yamraj instructs that actually the people who you had met, they were the people, the men of my boss, my Aradhya Dev Vishnu, so Narayan. So then he actually over there, he says that actually anyone who has chanted the names of the Supreme Lord once, names of Vishnu, Krishna, Ram, Narayan once, don't bring those souls to me. They are not liable to be punished by me. So that is like also a general guideline that comes. So it is said that not everybody goes to Yamraj. So then what happens? How do they get the next body? So it is explained that what happens after death is the soul gets a preta body. Preta body is more like a vehicle to transmigrate to the next body. It's not exactly, pret doesn't mean necessarily that it is like a demoniac body where it will start harassing everyone else. Pret doesn't mean in that sense. It is more like a transitional body which is given to the soul, so that until the time it gets the next body. So to stay in the material world, because the soul itself is spiritual, it's not material, it needs a material vehicle to stay inside the material world. So that preta body becomes like that material vehicle for the soul. It's not a gross body, it's a subtle body. So until the soul acquires the next body, it stays in the preta body. So it is mentioned that all the different rituals that are mentioned in the scriptures, it is there to help the soul. If the soul has its own pious credits, it doesn't need any any other credits from anyone. It can, by the credits of its own pious activities, it can acquire the next body. But there are cases where the soul doesn't have its own pious credits, and then it has to stay in these kind of transitional bodies. And it is mentioned that it's not very pleasant to stay in these kind of transitional bodies. It is very difficult for a soul. It hurts the soul a lot. It's painful, it's not very pleasant. So the one thing that is mentioned is that it is mentioned that sometimes certain souls, because of their past activities, they get ghostly bodies. So we may say that, okay, it is mentioned in the scriptures at places that ghosts are higher than the human beings. At times it is mentioned, but that higher than the human beings is mentioned more in terms of they might have some powers with which they can do certain things. But overall, it is very painful for the soul to stay in the ghostly bodies, because what happens is there are desires to enjoy. You know, the souls still have desires, but it doesn't have the means to fulfill those desires. I might have certain desires that I want to eat rasgulla, but I don't have that body to actually again that eat that rasgulla and put it in my mouth and then taste the taste of that rasgulla. So it's very painful. It's not they want to enjoy, but they just cannot enjoy. It's that kind of an existence, and that's why it is mentioned that at times these ghosts, they try to take control of another human being, and then whatever wishes they have, they try to fulfill with they make that body as the medium and try to fulfill their wishes. So in such cases, it is mentioned that when the forefathers, if they are stuck in these kind of bodies, then pindadan has to be done. So the pindadan, as we know, every offering is meant for Lord Vishnu. So Lord Vishnu, we know Bhuktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarvalok Maheshwaram, that is 5.29 if I am not wrong, where Krishna says that actually I am the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. It also comes in the 9th chapter that I'm missing the verse, but all the sacrifices that are offered, it is offered to Lord Vishnu. So he is the original enjoyer. So in this case also, the remnants, basically the oblations are offered to Lord Vishnu, and the remnants of those, where offering has been done to Vishnu, they are offered to the forefathers. And through the credits of whatever sacrifices have been made, then they can go higher. There is also this story that comes in Mahabharata itself, where Pandu, after he dies, so it is mentioned in the Mahabharata that he becomes a courtier in the court of Yamraj. He is a he is on a particular planet. I'm missing the name of the planet, but he wants to ascend to heavenly planet, to the planet of Indra, Surendra Lokam, as it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita itself. So he sends a message through Narad Muni to Yudhishthir that you should perform this Rajasuya sacrifice, and through the credits of that Rajasuya sacrifice, I will be able to ascend to the heavenly planets. So this was one of the reasons Yudhishthir Maharaj wanted to do Rajasuya sacrifice in the first place, because it was kind of coming as a request and an order from his father Maharaj Pandu. So these kind of things are mentioned in the scriptures, but here it is mentioned that if a person becomes a devotee, Prabhupada writes in the purport that if a person becomes devotee, then there is no need for such activities, because what the devotee is doing, everything that the devotee is doing, he is doing it for the pleasure of Vishnu only. Everything, Krishna also says Machitta Madgata Prana, their lives are dedicated to me and their consciousness is always fixed in me. Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita 9.27, he says, Yat karose, yad ashnase, yad juhosi dadasi, yat tapashyasi konteya, tat kurushmadarpanam. So actually devotees are already doing this. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So devotees who have surrendered their lives to Krishna, they are already doing all these things. So there is no need to specially perform these kind of karma kandi activities. It is more mentioned in the terms of for the karma kandi people. So we also see that in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when after killing Hiranyakashipu, we see that when Prahlad Maharaj tries to appease Narsingadev, because Narsingadev was so angry. So when he tries to appease Narsingadev, so Narsingadev becomes pleased with Prahlad, and then he asks him to ask for a benediction. So at that time, Prahlad Maharaj says that actually, my dear Lord, I know that because you have touched my father, he has already become purified, and he would have been liberated, but still he was such a demoniac person, and he was very envious to you. So I pray to you that please liberate him. Please deliver him. So actually, at that time, Narsinghdev says that, I'm sorry, missing the names. Narsinghdev says that actually he used the word tri saptabhi. Tri saptabhi means three saptabhi means 3 times 7. He says 21 generations have been liberated already for you. So he speaks a verse very, I think this is in the 10th chapter. He says, Yatra yatra cha mad bhaktaha prashantaha sam darshinaha sadhvaha samaducharas te punyate ki kataha. He says that actually, wherever there are devotees like you, yatra yatra cha mad bhaktaha, my devotees like you, prashantaha, who are very, very peaceful, and sam darshina, who are equipoised, who are equal to everyone, sadhvaha, they are saintly people and who have very good qualities like you. He says that the whole dynasty is purified for such devotees, and not just the dynasty. He says the whole country is purified. Wherever they live, that place, that country is also purified. So actually, it is mentioned that the pure devotees who have sacrificed everything for the pleasure of Vishnu, for the pleasure of Krishna, for them these kind of karmakandi activities are not necessary. For them everything is already taken care. So they are not bound by any kind of rin. Generally they are mentioned, it is mentioned that there are certain rinas. So there is a pitra rin, there is the matra rin, there is a deva rin, there is the rishi rin, there is the bhuta rin, there is one more rina which I am forgetting. So all these rin are already taken care of. Rina means debt. So you have to clear your debts, it is mentioned. So Pitra Rin is what is being taken care by Pindadan. Pindadan is to take care of the Pitra Rin, the debt of the forefathers, because they have given us this body. So therefore, we are indebted to them. But if once a person becomes a pure devotee of Krishna, so please notice this, pure devotee, not just an ordinary devotee like me. So here also, if you look at the translation of the verse that Srila Prabhupada quotes from the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.41, Prabhupada says, anyone who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up all kinds of obligation, and has taken to the path in all seriousness, owes neither duties nor obligations to the demigods. So here he talks about those demigods as the Devarin, sages is the, what is it? It is also kind of rain. So general living entities, family members, humankind, or forefathers. Such obligations are automatically fulfilled by performance of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we should not prematurely think that now because I have started chanting the rounds, today I've chanted 16 rounds, now I can give up all my obligations, all my duties, I am not answered. So we should not prematurely think that way. So we have to be careful also. So I'll stop here with that note and see if there are any comments or questions about and corrections about what I spoke today.
So, Hare Krishna Prabhu, I missed maybe in between when you were talking about the Preta Sharira. So, who gets the ghost body?
Okay, so that's a good question. Now again, so when the scriptures mention, they just mention general principles. So it's not that everything is mentioned in detail in the scriptures, but it is mentioned that generally people who are, very grossly sinful, they might get these kind of bodies. And there are certain kinds of sins also mentioned, what kind of sins can lead to getting a ghostly body. So one of the things that is mentioned is people who commit suicide. So suicide is considered like a very grave sin in one sense, because generally one of the important dharma for a human being is to protect the body. So unless we have the body, so it is mentioned that the body is like the tree, and then the fruits from the tree will come only when the tree is protected. If we don't protect the tree, then there will be no fruits. So from this body, we get the fruits of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So they are like the fruits of this tree. But if we destroy the tree itself, so we have been given this particular body for a particular purpose, and it is our duty to protect this body. So there it is one way to think that I am not the body, I am the soul, but that doesn't mean that we should completely disregard the body, because for the soul to function in this world, even to serve Krishna, the body should be functional. So people who destroy the body, so one level of destruction is committing suicide. So it basically incurs a lot of sin, and one of the repercussion that comes is the person who has destroyed his body with suicide, he might have to live in a ghostly body, for the duration of amount for which he was supposed to live in that body. At least until that time, he will not get another body. Another level of destruction that is mentioned for the body is people who indulge in self-destructive habits. So these self-destructive habits could be smoking, drinking, drugs. So these kind of bodies actually, harm the body. So, and because it is our duty to take care of the body, and if we are trying to indulge in these kind of self-destructive habits which damage the body, that also incurs sin. So we may think that, okay, what is so wrong about smoking and drinking? Why did Prabhupada say like this? But one level to understand is that these kind of bodies, these kind of habits can also incur sins, because we are damaging the body. Now, this may not result in getting a ghostly kind of bodies, but that also is a fair amount of sin that comes with such kind of habits. So this is just one way of getting a ghostly body. There are other ways also. It is
Yeah,
mentioned.
also violent murders, where people
Yeah.
are not ready to finish their sense gratification.
Exactly.
They
And
come
if
back
they,
into a ghostly body.
right, if they had some unfinished business and they are too attached to it, that I want to get back because this person did this to me, did that to me. People who are really envious, who are very vengeful, they might get a ghostly body also. So
And there are also like Brahma Rakshasas and things like that who are powerful Brahmanas but still committed some grave offense. They
right,
remain in Brahma Rakshasa bodies and all that. So there are many
many ways.
instances of this, many ways.
Many instances and many ways to get that. So we see that also in the Chitraketu Maharaj pastime. Chitraketu Maharaj gets a curse. So he becomes a Brahma Rakshas in his next life. The
Oh,
curse was
really?
given by Parvati Devi, of course. So he becomes a Brahma Rakshas in the next life. So curses from great devotees, great souls can also result in such kind of existence.
I had a dream one time where a Brahma Rakshasa, somebody was choking me, and I actually related to Niranjan Maharaj, and he told me it was a Brahma Rakshasa. This is Niranjan Maharaj saying, not me saying.
It is possible actually, because it is mentioned in the Mahabharata that there are certain kind of sins, for the reactions for those sins come in dreams. You don't actually get like a physical reaction, but you might get bad dreams because of those kind of sins that you had committed. So all the full spectrum of things are
But
mentioned.
I woke up screaming Krishna, Krishna, Krishna.
That's nice.
So I was joking with somebody. I sent one Brahma Rakshasa back to God. At least one. Then I had another dream. So I was very proud that in my dream I screamed Krishna, when this Brahma Rakshasa. So I had another dream a couple of months later where somebody was choking me again, same kind of dream. But this time I called out to my mother saying, Amma, Amma, So I said, there must have been a thing, there must have been some news among the Brahma Rakshasas. Oh, there's this lady, she screams Krishna. So go choke her. And then the next Brahma Rakshasa says, oh, it was just a fluke. She didn't call it Krishna. So I didn't go back to God. So the second Brahma Rakshasa was not so lucky. I don't know if the second one was a Brahma Rakshasa, but I related this dream to Niranjan Maharaj. I said, why are these people choking me? And he said, they're Brahma Rakshasas. That's what he said.
Thank you, Prabhu, for explaining. But one additional question, Prabhu. So, as you mentioned, if we are devotee, we don't need to perform pindadans and those kind of activities, right? Because everything that we are performing is basically for Krishna, our activities. But a lot of time, we say all those things, but if you just relate to our family, in India, if somebody passes, then all the customs that we perform on a 12 day and 13 days, the pindadan and all those customs, just imagine if if we are not performing those for our close family member when they pass, I don't it's hard for them to understand, right? And they will just think you are so crazy.
Yeah. So two things I mentioned. First of all, I did not say that we should do like this. I said I gave that conditions apply that if you are a pure devotee, if you are you have given up everything in service
Okay.
of Krishna.
I
At least I
maybe
have
missed
not done
that.
that. So
Disclaimer Prabhuji has given
yeah,
already,
I
right?
didn't mention that disclaimer. Thank you, Mata. I was missing that word disclaimer. So in this case, if whether you should do this or not do this, it's always best to check with one's own guru and get their feedback on that. But there are certain things that we might have to do for social considerations, for family considerations. When I go to India, I don't want to offend my parents, and sometimes I have to do certain things which I would not ordinarily do when I'm here, to respect family traditions, cultures. That is different. In our heart, we know that, okay, everything is meant for Krishna satisfaction. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvalok maheshwaram. So aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhurev cha. Krishna says that. So in our consciousness, we know that ultimately everything is meant for the satisfaction of Krishna, or the satisfaction of Vishnu. So at times we might have to do certain things for social considerations, for family considerations. Even Prabhupada once when this temple was being constructed, Vrindavan temple was being constructed. So at the stone laying ceremony, so there Prabhupada had the whole kirtan was going on, but there was also this fire sacrifice that was going on at that time. So somebody asked Prabhupada, why this fire sacrifice? So Prabhupada said that because these people will not understand that this fire sacrifices will not have any effect. What has effect is Harinam. So he just at a corner in the side, he had this fire sacrifice go so that the Brahmanas who live in that area, they don't get offended. So just to please them. But main thing he said, they just keep chanting loudly. The kirtan was so loud that nobody could actually hear what is being done at the fire sacrifice. So at times you might have to do certain things for some social considerations, but that doesn't mean. So there another example for this is in India we don't have women priests in any of the temples, but in outside India we do have women priests. So because in India we have that whole idea that women should not be the priests in the temple. So at times Prabhupada did not challenge these kind of social considerations. He said, okay, let us just respect the social, whatever considerations are there, and then move forward. You don't have to always offend people and then take panga all the time with them.
Yeah.
Prabhu Chaitanya,
Thank you.
Prabhu Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also went to Gaya, right, to perform the Shraddh ceremony for his father.
Yeah, I am not aware. Maybe he did, Prabhu. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm saying, that there's certain things we might
Yes, he
have to
did,
do.
Prabhuji. He went to
Yeah.
Gaya and there only he got initiated with Ishwarapur.
Right. So it is definitely possible. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, there are other pastimes also of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu where he did certain things which he would not normally do. For example, at once he accepted prasadam at a Shakta sannyasi's home. Also, he would never do ordinarily, just to respect the social traditions. So, how would an acharya act in a particular circumstance? It depends from case to case. So he may not ordinarily do that, but just at times to respect some social customs, he might have to do that. So we may know that, okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is Krishna, then why would he has to offer oblations to himself? But yeah.
So for none of the devotees, they do that, right? Pinda and things like that. So because the
Actually,
devotees,
in ISKCON Gaya, I know that they have the whole department, because so many people come to Gaya to offer these kind of ceremonies for their forefathers. So they do. So again, as I said, in our case, it's best to consult with our spiritual master that should we do this or should we not do this. And spiritual master may also not give like one blanket solution to all his disciples. It may vary from disciple to disciple, as the case may be. he might also see what is the level of the surrender for this devotee and how progress he has made. Accordingly, he might prescribe certain things. So of course, in
then-
our
No, go ahead.
no, of course, in our case, the other thing that devotees do is, offer certain things in the temple itself, in the name of their forefathers. Like one of the things possibly the people do is like sponsoring a Sunday feast for their
Oh,
forefathers.
right.
So that is what we do, is we chant for the benefit of that soul. We offer kirtan, we offer harinam and we request Krishna for the spiritual benefit of that soul.
Mhm.
So that is one way of dealing with these kind of
Right.
things. So that is
But
also
what
kind
I'm
of
thinking, as this verse says, for ordinary people who are not devotees, as the Kali Yuga progresses, their descendants will not do this pinda thing for them, right? I mean, that custom is deteriorating.
right. That is true, Mataji. That's why I'm saying in Kali Yuga, everything that matters is the Harinam, Harinam, Eva Kevalam Kalau
I
Nasti
see what you're
Nasti.
saying now. Yeah.
So Pindadan, again, you might be doing Harinam for the benefit of the soul. That is also a form of sacrifice for the forefathers. So we may not be doing exactly as the rituals that are mentioned in the Pindadan. You do this, you put diya here, diya there. It becomes more like a karmakandic kind of thing.
Right, but in some families, neither might be done. Neither Pindadan nor Harinam,
Right. No, that is true, Mataji. I agree. Especially you can see in the Western countries, they don't have this
Right.
concept.
Yeah, there's no
No,
such
that
concept.
is not entirely true. Miss Pindadan, if you see, that is even followed in Germany, Japan, Korea, China. You would see the different versions of
Oh, I
those
see.
things.
Worshipping
Yeah.
ancestors, right?
Yes. And
So,
even in
so there is a
Mexico.
difference, Prabhu. Worshipping ancestors is different than offering the remnants of Prasad, as Srila Prabhupada says, to the ancestors.
Yeah. In
So-
Prasadam, they don't offer, but they worship.
So that
Celebrate
is
a day
considered,
for the ancestors.
yeah, offering. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 16th chapter that, people who worship the Pitras, they are tamoguri. Sorry, they are in the mode of passion, he says. So yajante satvika devan yaksharaksham, something like that the verse comes in the 16th chapter. So there is this whole religion that is based on the worship of the Pitras, Shintoism in Japan, as you mentioned. So that is based on the worship of the ancestors. So their idea is that they worship only ancestors. They don't worship God. In Rajasthan also, we have a full community. So they have a temple of ancestors and they worship rats over there. So they have the completely different concept. Obviously, we don't have to discuss all of that. But worshipping ancestors is different than of Pindadan concept. So that is not exactly Pindadan. It is a completely different concept.
Yeah, even Mexicans and all have some kind of a ancestor day and all that.
Yeah.
So Pitra Hare Krishna Prabhuji, then what is the purpose of in the Pitra Runa, they say offering the Pindadan is one more way of satisfying the thing, and you also the sins that we do is taken care, right? So, and according to the ISKCON, you're saying that there is no need, as long as we worship. I mean, no need in the sense people do, but I'm just asking
Again,
so it doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Right. Again, I'm not saying that for anyone
Yes,
who is in
Prabhuji,
ISKCON should
I
not
understand. Yeah, no,
do
I
this.
totally get you,
Yeah.
but I'm just asking if it's a pure devotee, yes. If they don't perform also, that's fine. The
Yeah. So the idea is that for the ancestors who may be stuck in different kinds of bodies, in different kinds of circumstances in their next life, to help them get like a better body or preferably get them liberation, this ceremony of Pindadan is recommended. It's a karma kandi ritual. Karma kand means, by basically we want material benefits. That is karma kand. By doing karma kandi rituals, we want material facilities, material results, at the level of, it's basically material. but the idea is that if the ancestors are stuck in various circumstances, then when their descendants they offer this pindadan, it basically gives them some pious credit so that it helps them in their next life. Now that help could either be getting a better body, getting a better loka, so that is the idea of pindadan. Now there could be various ways of offering that pinda. So one way could be whatever pindadan ceremony that is mentioned. But again, we know that in Kali Yuga, first of all, there are not enough qualified Brahmins who can do those kind of ceremonies. And also it is mentioned in the scriptures that what matters in Kali Yuga is Harer Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nastev, 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 Gatiranyatha. So at least ultimately what matters is the names of Lord Hari. So uh, w- w- we may still do the sacrifice if required from a social not sacrifice but the ritual. You understand the ritual, right? It is a
Yes,
kind of
Prabhuji.
ceremony
Yes.
that you do this, put diya here, then diya here,
Yes,
then
yes.
chant this mantra, then chant this. So the whole ritual is there. But what is mentioned in the scriptures is that any ritual will not have any effect. What will have effect is Harinam. So I would suggest make sure to do Harinam. And along with that, if you want to do certain other ceremonies, that can be done. But it is best to often consult one's own spiritual master in these cases. If people, especially people who are initiated, they can always reach out to their spiritual master and take guidance from them. What should they do and how should they do it. Generally, the eldest living member of the family does that. So, male member. So either it could be in case say for example someone's father has passed away, but if he has an elder brother, then he will take care of that. So whoever is the living eldest person in the family, they take care of these kind of things in the family according to the
Yeah, my husband is the eldest son, so every year we perform here and we donate one cow in the Goshala.
okay.
So again, that's why it was like doubting me now, like okay, am I doing something? Yeah. Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah. It's an I mean it answered my question.
Sure.
Hare Krishna.
All right, I think we can stop here.
Prabhu,
We have exceeded. I think
the
some missing.
last part of the session, the squeeze. Can I
Oh
go?
yeah, sorry Prabhu, I forgot about that. Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you. Everything is silence. I hope devotees are seeing the questions.
Finished yet? How many questions are there?
7.
Okay, well, I'm at 5, so I'll be right. Give me like 2
Okay.
more minutes or less than 2 minutes, okay?
Somehow I'm not able to answer. It doesn't let me answer, Prabhu. I don't know why. Maybe you disabled it for me.
The co-host usually won't get. Maybe I.
Oh, okay. That's why I was thinking, why is not letting me
Now
answer
you
it?
can do
Okay.
Prabhu. See, maybe.
Okay, but now I'm not seeing that. Where did it go? Somehow it disappeared from
Maybe the
polls here.
co-host
Okay.
and the host cannot.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God. No.
Okay, we can give more 40 seconds.
Okay, I finished.
All right. I hope if anyone is answering, please submit. I'm going to end in a few seconds. Yes, thank you. All right, quick discussion. Who is not obliged to offer Pindadana? I think that we discussed elaborately the second answer. I mean, maybe. And this is, the answer is demigods, sages, family members, and forefather. Doctors is not the correct answer. This is in the purport. Again, the third question is also from the purport. Answer is the second and third correct answer. Okay, this is the 4 regions: compassion, destruction of family values, no enjoyment, and fear of sinful reaction. These 4 are correct. Next is Ajamel story, right? Prabhuji discussed. And next one is which verse Prabhuji discussed to give that. It's a Bhaktaram Yagya Tapasham, the verse. And the last one is many answers. So not the first one and not the last one, the rest all the things. Thank you everyone for participating in the quiz. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhyabhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।